going to discuss and throw some light to the big update with my colleagues at IVI who has helped me with all that is needed for the program. I also extend my sincere gratitude to our panelists of the day who very generously accepted my invitation. I also thank all of you for joining our programs. We at India Vision Institute strive to address things that are relevant and are beneficial to the at indiavisioninstitute.org to contact us. I thank all our well-wishers, sponsors, and collaborators who has been with IVI since the beginning. A small note on the technicalities. We advise the participants to use headphones for better audio and also turn off the video in case your internet bandwidth is low. Also, please do mute your microphones during the session so that we all can hear each other well. This
Sorry, somebody speaking, not able to
Sorry,
hear.
sorry, participants. I think we have lost Dishamam for a while here due to the technical glitches. So she'll be back in a while. So, yeah. So before we move on to the session, I'd like to introduce you, dear panelists, to our participants. Okay. So we have here Dr. Shrikant R. Bharadwaj, Ms. Sandhya Shekhar, Dr. Uday Kumar Adipalli, and Dr. Pavan Varkicharla. So introducing one by one, Dr. Shrikant R. Bharadwaj. Dr. Bharadwaj is currently the director at Brian Holden Institute of Optometry and Vision Sciences and scientist at Professor Brian Holden Eye Research Center. Dr. Shrikant Bharadwaj completed his undergraduate degree in optometry from the Elite School of Optometry, Chennai, and a PhD in Vision Science from the University of California, Berkeley School of Optometry, USA. He pursued his postdoctoral training in Vision Science at the Indiana University School of Optometry, USA. After joining LVPI, Dr. Shrikant then established the Visual Optics Research Laboratory at the Institute. His laboratory actively publishes research work in international peer-reviewed vision science journals, and the research work is generously supported by extramural grants from the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, and from the optical industry, like about medical optics, Groningen, the Netherlands. Dr. Bharadwaj also serves on the editorial board of Nature Scientific Reports and Optometry and Vision Science. So before I go in introducing the next panelist, can I check if Jisa ma'am has corrected the internet? Jisa ma'am, are you with us here? All right. Our next panelist is Ms. Sandhya Shekhar. Ms. Sandhya Shekhar completed her BS Optometry from Brian Holden Institute of Optometry and Vision Sciences, LV Prasad Eye Institute. After finishing her bachelor's degree, she worked with SLR India Private Limited for over 3 years in the capacity of a senior wireless consultant. She later moved to India Vision Institute and worked in the capacity of senior program manager for 3 years. Here, she was involved in program management, grant and proposal writing, networking, conceptualizing, and delivering workshops and seminars to varied eye care practitioners and students across India. In 2018, she moved to the States to pursue a master's degree in vision sciences and research. She graduated from Pacific University, College of Optometry, Oregon, USA, less than a week ago. Our next panelist is Dr. Uday Kumar Adepalli. Dr. Uday Kumar again has graduated from Bosch and Lomb School of Optometry, currently known as Brian Holden Institute of Optometry and Vision Science, LV Prasad Eye Institute, India, and attained his doctoral degree from the University of New South Wales, Australia. He is a clinician, researcher, and a public health specialist optometrist, and his focus is directed towards empowering rural communities with high-quality comprehensive eye care services. He held different academic positions, not only in India, but also overseas, including Middle East and Africa. During his career at LVPI, he played a major role in strengthening the village vision complex in various parts of South India, rural communities, and actively involved in teaching optometry graduates and postgraduate certificates of the UNSW and training vision technicians to deliver high quality and sustainable eye care to the community. In his previous role, he served as a senior optometry consultant for Light for the World Africa projects and developed a proof of concept on establishing the first optometry clinic internship hub for optometry graduates at Mekere University, Uganda, East Africa. Later, Dr. Uday Kumar got registered at the Optometry Council of Australia and New Zealand to practice the profession in Australia and New Zealand. Currently, as an optometrist with more than a decade of experience, he continues working for many national and international communities and groups supporting the elimination of avoidable blindness. He is also a member of Multi-Country Evaluation Board, providing expertise in eye health for West Africa. The last panelist is Dr. Pawan Verkicharla. Dr. Pawan is a scientist researching on both basic and translational aspects of myopia at LV Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad, India. Dr. Pawan pursued PhD from Queensland University of Technology, Australia, and postdoctoral research from Singapore Eye Research Institute. Overall, he has over 27 publications in international journals and currently holds research grants from Government of India, Department of Science and Technology and Science and Engineering Board that supports research related to understanding various aspects of myopia in a holistic approach. Apart from research, Dr. Pawan also examines children in the myopia control clinic as a consultant optometrist at LVPI. So welcoming you, dear panelists, for today's session. And looks like we have Ms. Jissa back here. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nandini, for taking over. It's an world, so like internet.
Okay, so sorry people for that. And again,
Hello, Nandini.
Yes, ma'am. I'll take over for a while. So, Dr. Shrikant, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just to go about, sir, can you share a few experiences about, all this education part abroad and how it was as, after completing from India and then going there, how was it as a whole?
Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly broad-ranging question to answer, to be very honest. But I'll give it a shot. Me starting graduate school, thanks to the IVI program, I realized how old I have become. It is over 19 years that I applied for graduate school at Berkeley, and then decided to pursue my graduate school career. And at some level, things have gone a full circle for me, having finished graduate school, postdoctoral training, and then coming back to India and setting up a research lab and now training my own PhD students and stuff. I think the one message that, one reflection that I have had in this is I have always tried to follow my passion for what research was about. I was fairly clear that I didn't want to be in the clinic full time, even though these days I do address very clinically relevant problems. But being in the clinic, seeing patients, I didn't see that as my cup of tea. I was always more interested in the education side of things, and the PhD training and further training in teaching, learning, and all of that, that sort of helped follow that passion. So for all the youngsters that are listening to this, the one thing is to really find out what your passion is. And nowadays the opportunity is a lot more for optometry graduates than at the time that I had finished up. So abroad, within India, there is lots of opportunities that are there. The question is to really introspect and find out what do you really want to do with your life in say in a 5-year plan, and then take the next step towards doing that. So that would be my big picture message.
So, and sir, you've been exposed to a different environment and experience being abroad. And what pulled you back to India?
Well, it was fairly. I mean, again, it's a good question, but it's a really hard one to answer. We have been introspecting on why did we want to even come back to India. I guess for starters, I never imagined living in the US. When even at the time when I relocated there, I never imagined living there. It was always a temporary sort of a thing that you go there for your training and you wanted to come back. But one of the things that you realized when you go there is things are so much more streamlined in that country, owing to the efforts put by several researchers over a period of time. Optometry in the US especially is well over 120 years old. And there are several people who have contributed immensely to the growth of the profession. So today, if it is a well-oiled machinery there, be it research, be it education and all of that, it's because of the effort that somebody has put in. So unfortunately, in India at that time, there was not very many people who were doing that. There was therefore there was a void for somebody to come and fill this kind of a gap. So you are at a crossroads where you decide, where you are thinking whether you want to sort of go back and contribute something to that, and in that process go through a lot of learnings and hardship yourself, or are you okay sort of settling in the US and then be one amongst the many people who are sort of in that machinery that I spoke of earlier. I am glad I chose the former path, because I've had an opportunity to contribute my bit towards the profession. I'm continuing to contribute my bit towards the profession. And the value addition that I believe my group is bringing in, I don't think even if we were all living in our respective countries, US, Australia, wherever it is, I don't think we would have brought about this much of value addition that we are bringing in. So the felt need to change things in India is to make the profession more recognized and more robust. Bring in an active research component into the country was really, I think, the main reasons to have come back. Was I?
Yeah, I
Was I
can hear you,
audible?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes. Jisa ma'am, you might have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll take over from here. Shrikant, if after coming back to India, after being exposed to an international element there, for students who are trying to pursue education abroad, what would be your advice to them? And if I'm to ask for few factors that they should ensure while choosing their university or their broad study area, what would that be?
I think, Jissa, the first thing that as graduating optometrists or students who are looking to pursue their career abroad, you've got to be very clear about why you are going abroad. What's the purpose for you to go abroad? You can do that for a variety of reasons. One is pursue higher education, either in the form of research or in the form of advanced clinical training or other kinds of education. Or you simply want to, you enjoy living abroad and then you just want to go there and then live there. Be truthful to yourself and be very clear about why you want to do this. The reason I'm saying this is, if you were to look at the statistics of all the people that have left the this is from the school that I graduated, and if you take maybe 10 years of a sample of people who have all applied for graduate studies, and then they have gone to the US or UK, Australia, Canada, wherever, and now see what they are really doing. If you do that statistics, you realize that there is no more than 3 or 4 of us amongst the 40-50 of them that actually relocated, that are in academics. Only 3 of us are in academics, actually pursuing our research and stuff. So even while all the 40 sort of went on to get an education in research, only 3 of us are pursuing that. That really tells you that and the remaining 47 are doing completely something else. They have all gone and done their ODs again, and they have gone back into clinical practice and things like that. So in my own mind, it begs the question of, why did you even have to leave the country? Was graduate studies a passport to leave the country, and whereas in reality your passion was something else completely. So find out what your passion is, and then accordingly make that move. There will be far less heartburns that will happen during that process. That's one thing. Second, if you are very clear that you want to pursue research abroad, then I would say start the process of applying to graduate schools and stuff fairly early in your undergraduate training program. One of the gripe that I always have with students who come to LVP for their internship, and I'm sure Pawan will share that gripe with me, is when you ask the students what do they really want to do after they graduate, most of them are clueless about their next steps. Now, 2 months down the lane, if you are going to graduate and you are still clueless about what you want to do, that's not a very, very good sign. Because you have really not then thought through what your real passion is, what you really want to do with your life and stuff. And I think I'll really encourage students to actually start doing that, probably even in their beginning of their internship and things like that, and then put the path that's required to actually do it. Unfortunately, many students end up just saying, I want to pursue a master's degree. Now, why do you want to do a master's? What is the purpose of doing the master's? Is that along the lines of what your career path is? All of these questions remains unanswered in the student's mind. So I would encourage them to really think about those aspects, have that clear in their mind, and then take the next steps towards their career.
Right. Thanks, Shrikant. That's indeed a very good observation about how many turned out to be in academics and research, and how many turned out to be in a clinical side. So my next question is, how has this international experience changed you as a professional? If you were to continue your studies in India, do you think that would have made any difference?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, at the time that I graduated, we didn't have very many options for higher studies. So the question of if you are interested in academics, staying back in India and doing something did not even arise, to be very honest.
Limited.
Yeah, it was very, very limited.
Right.
Having said that, the international exposure has made a huge difference in my way of thinking, in my way of conducting myself, and in general about the thought process that is there, both technically and also technically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, every bit that you think of. I think that exposure to a different culture has made a tremendous change in the way I look at things. So in that respect, I would certainly encourage students to go get exposure to a different culture altogether, and learn from that culture. There are good and bads about all of those cultures. Good to go and learn all of that process. But again, just coming back to my earlier point, as long as clear about why you are doing this, I think you will benefit from that experience quite a bit.
Thanks so much, Shrikant. I'll go ahead with the other panelists as well, and then come back with the audience questions.
Sure.
So Uday, my next set of questions is for you. Uday? You might want to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Thanks, Uday. So my first question to you would be, you are probably among the very few optometrists whom I have seen who have had such a varied professional experience. You've been a student in India and UNSW, you've been an academician in India and Africa, then a researcher, a public health advocate, both in India and abroad. Now that experience is quite a lot to talk about. If I may ask, is there any major difference that you would have noticed between working in India and abroad? If so, what was it that caught your attention the most?
Okay. So basically the first thing I would like to share is it all because of the experience or because of the exposure that I got in LV Prasad Institute, working there for almost 15 years. So wherever we go, everybody knows that the standards, the kind of standards that are followed in LV Prasad Institute. So that's the global standards in terms of clinical care. What I'm talking about is, so wherever we go, we are basically trying to practice the same standards. So in that way, whether be it in Australia, New Zealand, or in Africa, all we were trying to in clinics where what we are trying to practice is the same as what we used to follow in LV Prasad Institute. So unfortunately, the thing is the same quality or same standards are not followed across the country. So like if you everybody might have their own experience. Like it is definitely you get a different experience once you get your eyes examined at LV Prasad Institute as compared to any other place. So there is no set of standards which are this is what I've noticed in India. Whereas at other, like in other countries, there are some norms, and everybody they have to stick on to those regulations, those policies.
Right. So it's more the protocols that are being followed that is ensured
It's
abroad.
protocol. Yeah.
Right. So my next question is: you've been associated with LVPI for many years. You were working, and what prompted you to pursue a higher education abroad? I mean, why did you do a PhD abroad, and why did you choose UNSW in specific, if I may ask?
Okay. So for the first part of question, the question itself is an answer, because I've been working with LVP for so many years, and it is in the values of LVP that one of the values of LVP is that once you continue to work with LVP, you will also have a career path. So as part of that career growth, I was selected and offered to do a PhD. And why UNSW is because of the collaborations that we had then with UNSW and Brian Holden Vision Institute. Then now it is Brian Holden Foundation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now, what do you think are three things that you will want the students to be ready for if they are to work outside India? I know the regulations, the exams are all in place, but other than that,
Yeah.
these are the three things. And can an overseas education help or contribute to a work life outside?
The most of this question is basically answered by Shrikant, because I totally agree with whatever Shrikant said. Like, one should be true to themselves, and they should have a clear cut idea on why they wanted to go abroad. And it is definitely not because one of their friends or seniors or brothers or any of the family member is abroad and they also wanted to go. It is definitely not like that. So
Right.
they should be clear on that. Apart from that, coming to my question, so the three things, if at all I have to say, then I would say the first thing is be strong with basics, because after once an optometrist, and when this is common with every undergraduate student, once they go to second year, they most of the things they forget what they have studied in first year. But when given a time when they have to give any exam out abroad, I mean, to get any registration or for any licensing exam, then they have to study all the 5 years, 4 or 5 years of optometry curriculum. So they have to
Right.
be really strong enough and always uh, uh, in some way, either through teaching or in any other way, they have to be in touch with the basics. They should never lose the basics. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they have to have long-term plans. As Shrikant had already mentioned, they should have. They should always go with 5 years plan. 5 years down the line, where do they want to see themselves? That is very, very important. And these days, in such a competitive world, no short-term plans at all. And the current situation, as mentioned, hardly it's very difficult to find anyone. Uh, if you ask them what do they want to do next year, they don't know actually. They're really clueless. And the third one is love what you do to be the best in whatever they do. Either a researcher or if you are in clinics or in academics or anything, or into administration totally. Just love what you are doing. Only then you can you can be the best.
That the third option kind of led me to my next question. So
Yeah.
work is not just work at any point of time for most of us. So it is equally important that we feel content, motivated, and all other superlatives that we all can think of. Now, not that we all get it right all the time, but which role in your professional life has inspired you the most?
Okay. So this is really an interesting question, because it helps me in recollecting all the types of scopes of optometry that I have covered in the last 15 years. So I thank LVP for this again, because of the years of experience of work experience there. I had to basically uh, uh, participate in various various dimensions of the profession, I can say. So the one which I really love is the one which I did in East Africa, basically in Uganda. That is to establish a clinical internship hub. This was through Brian Holden Vision Institute and Makerere University there. So this involved a variety of skills like capacity building, training, teaching, and clinics, seeing patients, dispensing, and also training the interns from being good at research, as well as training them in how to become a good entrepreneur eventually after their internship. So that's the role which I love the most. And now actually I'm into currently totally different one, and I'm also enjoying this. This is as an evaluation project.
And do you think your overseas exposure has helped you in how you approach a situation right now, where, on a professional front?
Yes, definitely it had helped, and however, I should say that it all depends on the depends on how strongly you were trained with your basics. Like if you
Right.
don't know the ground reality when you are in your mother country, and you are not really trained, or if you don't have that proper sense of anything or handling a situation, then it becomes
Mhm.
difficult for you to handle anywhere for that matter. And in work, it is basically it's troubleshooting. So it depends on the way each individual takes up a challenge and face it.
Right, right. So I think a broader understanding is that we need to stick to the basics very, very correctly, and we need to have
Yes.
it all in there before we even try to move ahead,
Yeah.
whether it is work-wise or even study-wise for that matter. So I'll move on to our next panelist, Pawan.
Sure.
Hi, Pawan.
Hi.
Hi. So my next set of questions is to you. You are an established researcher in every sense of it. You work with a wide range of optometrists and other researchers skilled at various levels. And there is no doubt that everyone has their niche. But in general, how adept are our graduate or postgraduate optometry students from India in handling research? To ask this question in a different way, how competent are our Indian graduates in embarking work as a researcher?
Okay. I think you called me established researcher. I think I would still label myself as establishing researcher. So I think so. Are students now able to handle in India? I think it's all case dependent. I think it's all individual dependent. A lot of students that we see vary drastically. I don't think it's the master's or the bachelor's degree that will enable you to do research. A lot of times we do see somebody with master's, but they are not up to the mark if we have to recruit for them to the lab. Now, a lot of times the research project that we undertake as a part of the bachelor's or master's degree, it's been imposed in the curriculum for sure, but how seriously was it administered really tells us if we have to take that student in or out. I'm saying this because we don't really look at the well, CGPA matters, but more than CGPA, what's important is, did you undergo a thorough, vigorous process of what research is all about? Have you seen the complete cycle, writing proposal, getting IRB approvals? More than anything, I think it's the thought process that's more important. Are you really passionate about doing research, or is just another opportunity? There's nothing available, so I will join here for a few months. So these are the things that we will really look at and see if we want to take them in or out. If somebody without a research experience applies for a position, now it's very difficult to really assess them. Are they really, competent enough to the lab? So in that case, what's important is the same qualities that I said before. Are they able to think sensibly about a research question? I think that's more important. And then
Right.
are they really passionate about it? If they are passionate, I think a hand holding for good 6 to 10 months will ensure that they will be able to be in a race. So I think even though there is no research experience, if you show those 5 to 6 qualities, I think hand holding for good 8 to 10 months or 6 to 10 months, let's say, will ensure that there will be some outcome.
Right, right. So my next question, Pawan, is what is the professional scope for someone to be an optometry or public health researcher in India? How accommodating are the situations, organizations, or policies at the moment in our country?
The scope is huge. Well, India is great. We have a lot of options now. I'm saying this because if you're living abroad, and then doing your own research, be it PhD or postdoc, you will not see this if you unless you are really intending to go back to India. I mean, same thing happened to me as well. I was very skeptical about moving to India. I really want to move back to India, but I was looking at what support do I get? Do I get enough money in terms of getting grants? Will there be enough support from the government? Are there any research grants, much like Australia or Singapore? I'm saying Australia or Singapore because I was there for a few years. There were a lot of granting agencies. So I didn't know that there is something called Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Science and Engineering Board, etc. A lot of granting agencies from the government of India that offer a lot of support. Namely, I would just say that if you are young in research is less than or equal to 35 years. Srikanth, I'm sorry. So if you're less than or equal to 35 years, I think there's a lot of scope. So that's the right time to really move back to India. There's a grant from DST called Inspire Faculty. If you're less than 35 years, there will be 35 lakh grant to ensure you set up your lab. And then there's Early Career Research Award for again 35 year or less. And the scope for getting, even if you're outside, you can apply for certain grants like Ramanujam grant or Ramalinga Swami Fellowship that Srikanth has got when he joined back or when he moved before moving before to India. So a lot of scope. There's a lot of encouragement. I'm saying this because if you look at a research like cell biology or wet lab research, I think it's a bit of difficult task because you need NGS, you need PCR, you need different sort of wet lab entities, which are expensive. But if you're looking at any other instruments like biometers, open field refractors, or OCTs for that matter, with the money that the government offers, I think we will be able to buy it off. So if you are planning to come back to India, plan it before 35, that gives you more advantage. There are a lot of grants for sure. If you Google DST, DBT, and SCRB websites, you will see that there are tons of grants everywhere that you see. And with regards to the organizations, well, there's LVPI, Shankar Nethralaya, Manipal, University Manipal, and the Hyderabad Central University, which is taking PhDs, and there is few of our friends are doing a good job there.
Right. So there are a lot of grants out there, whoever wants to get it out. So what drives you as a researcher, Pawan?
I think like everybody said, it's the passion that's more important. Right. So I do myopia research. What drives me is a lot is not known in myopia. So I do not know 99% of myopia, maybe 99.9% of myopia. So there is hunger for knowing things because it's a vast ocean and we are just looking at a droplet. So I think that makes me to really look at different questions, ask different questions, what could be the reason for myopia. So I think the unanswered questions are making me to be in focus. Yeah.
Okay. And there every moment, every second, something or the other is changing. So how do you keep up with that? The technical progress that we make.
Well, technical progress, if you are asking in comparison to the Western world, I don't think India is lacking in anything at the moment. If you have the grant, if there is support from the institute, I think you can get all the technical instruments or any of the apparatus that you want to use for your own investigations. So, well, there is a race for sure. Every time there is upgradation in the OCT version, there is no instrument for refractive error diagnosis. But there's scope for us to build our own, or you will be able to buy it off. So I don't think there is anywhere we are lacking behind in comparison to anybody. So I don't think there is any lag there.
Right. And you've been a student in Queensland, and then later you did your postdoc in Singapore. Was there any stark difference in the learning pattern, as in how you absorb things, how the education was delivered there? And did you find it much tough to adapt to these educational institutes outside?
Well, going out as a undergrad, I mean, I was applying to the PhDs during my end of third year or early fourth year during my internship. So with that sort of background, we are too immature to do anything in research.
Okay.
I had a lot of difficulties. I mean, going to the Western world, listening to somebody with thick Australian accent, it was very challenging for sure. So I think the difficulties in terms of understanding the language or understanding the new concept were always there, because as a undergrad or bachelor's degree, you only learn little, but there's so much to learn. And with be it instruments, be it technology, be it writing, be it thought process, I think everything changed. If you ask me, I was struggling for good 5 to 6 months. I was silent uh, uh, to ask any questions. I was hesitant. I did not ask too many questions. And then I was struggling a lot. And on top of that, there was thick Australian accent of my mentor. But once I realized, well, what am I doing? And it's too difficult for me to really proceed. It's 4 year PhD, and I don't understand anything in 6 months. And then I started to ask questions to myself and then to my mentor. I don't understand this. Can you explain me a bit more? So that sort of thing really helped me. In next 2 3 months, I really understood what I'm doing. So I think that's
Right.
one thing. And then moving out from Australia to Singapore, there was not much of a difference. The difference is in PhD, you learn how to write, how to think. It's a journey that you undergo, what research is all about. The postdoc was more of writing grants, being more independent. So I was writing more of grants and then looking at different students and handling more projects. Coming back to India, so I am going in the path that I've choosing the path that I've learned. I'm troubling all my students in the lab. I'm sure they all hate me, but somewhere we all learn together.
Right. Right. And what will be your four pearls to students who want to pursue a postgrad outside, considering your career in research? What should they be prepared for?
For pearls, if somebody is wanting to do research outside or India,
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere, I think what's important is uh, think or first give it a bit of thought to see if you really want to do research and why do you want to do research. Like Srikanth and Uday alluded to already, what's important is, are you really a piece for research? What are your areas of interest? Do you like myopia? Do you like binocular vision? Do you like public health? Do you like psychophysics? What are your 5 major areas of interest? So, I mean, optometry is huge. Eye care is huge. You have to narrow down your areas of interest. Find a right mentor. You, for example, if I'm not interested in glaucoma, just because I get PhD in glaucoma, I shouldn't be doing it. You will struggle a lot. You will not enjoy the research. You will not enjoy your career path. So it's important that you choose what you love to do, what you like. They alluded to already. Basics are important. You know that, yeah, I am strong in this area. I might like this area. I enjoy reading more about this. So these are your few points to note to identify your areas of interest. Identify right mentor and be passionate. Give. I must say that research is not just 9 to 5 job. Or if I'm at LVP, it's not 7 o'clock to 5:30 job. It continues forever. Your thought process should be on always. If you're not up to that fixed timings, I think you are in for that. So yeah, I think passion is the key. I don't say hardworking is the key. I don't think hardworking is important, but you should be passionate to learn new things every time. Timings, ignore the timings, and then find the right mentor. One of somebody in optometry said that finding a mentor is like a marriage. It's like finding your own husband or wife. If something goes wrong, your life is screwed up. Very important that you find the right mentor.
Great. Thanks so much, Pavan. I'll move on to Sandhya now. Um, Hi. Right. Just about to say to unmute. Sandhya, so how prepared were you for a student life after working as a professional here in India for a few years, taking a break from being a student? And has your work experience helped you in adapting or approaching to situations while you were there?
Well, I never expected that I would work that long before, coming here for my studying. It's just that things didn't work out the way that I wanted. Like, it's difficult. Like being an international student, there's a lot of competition out there. you're not only competing with Indians, but also with other countries. So, and like everybody mentioned, I wanted to find something that I was really passionate about. So I took some time to figure out what I wanted. But coming back to your question, I would personally say it's definitely good to work for some time and then pursue your higher education, because I think it helps in terms of maturity, like Pawan rightly said, because and more importantly, it gives you that work-life balance, and also it helps you understand your finances better, because when you go from student to student, you don't know how to manage money, like you're handling different currency and you don't know how to balance that. That's very important. Like finances are also very important. And having a good work-life balance, again, is very important, which I think you learn only when you start working. And, as an international student here in the US, you can work for about 20 hours a week. So you not only have to work, you have to study, then you have your research, and then you have to do your work chores. So it's very easy to get burned down. So I think having some amount of work experience definitely helps you to understand a few things clearly. And I think I was able to maybe handle a few scenarios. I have a few classmates who are fresh out of college or fresh out of optometry school. I could see the way they handle things and the way I handle things. Things were much easier for me, although it was the same situation. I think it was definitely because of that maturity and that work experience.
Great. That kind of answered my next question as well, whether you would prefer someone to work for a little bit of time and then think of a postgrad and all that.
Yes.
So moving on, graduation and post-graduation, I think it's a different ball game altogether. Like Pawan was telling, it's more on pursuing your passion and getting the right mentor, and that takes a lot of work on what we want to do ultimately in life and in career. So what would you suggest to young students in terms of selecting their core interest, their study area, their university? Would you have anything in specific that they should keep in mind?
But I don't think I can add anything extra. I'm sure Shrikant, Pawan, and Uday have already covered. So again, just to reiterate, I would say pick a university based on what you're interested in studying or researching, rather than just go by the name, because university cannot offer opportunities that you are interested in pursuing. And especially during difficult times, like he rightly said, if I did get a few opportunities before, it's just that I was not interested in them. And grad school is difficult. Like there are so many factors and you need to be motivated all the time. So if you pick something that you're not interested in, staying motivated is really difficult. So I think you should pick you should first like Shrikant rightly said, even if you're not able to make up a decision as to what you want to do next, that's the good time. That's why I said it's good to work, because when you're working, you understand these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses. If you're really interested in your weaknesses, you can probably work on them. And then by the time you realize what you want to study, and then you can use that time meanwhile to reach out to different professors within India or wherever abroad. And then based on that, I would say pick a university. So that's how I went forward, and that's how I'm pretty sure everybody went forward. So don't pick a university, pick an area of interest, and then try to reach out to as many people as possible who work in those areas of research, and then research or whatever, your coursework or something. And then based on based on your scholarships or based on wherever you're getting admitted, so you can take a call accordingly. Yeah.
What would be few aspects which you think would have better equipped you for an international student life?
First, again, it's like I feel like I'm reiterating all the points because they kind of already been covered. Determination and self-motivation, I think, because there will be times when things will go wrong. There will be, I'm not saying there will be times where things will go wrong. And your motivation is the only thing that will keep you going. So determination and motivation, self-motivation is something that you should have. Then another important aspect, I would say, especially if you're choosing research, be it a student or as a profession, you should get used to working independently. So that's a different mindset, because in the education, I'm not sure how the educational system in India is, because it has been a while that I it's been some time that I graduated. So teachers will only guide you here, but you are the one who has to make all the decisions. They'll only tell you if you're wrong or if you're on the right path. They're not going to walk you through everything. So you will have to go to them with questions, your ideas and your plans. So you need to learn how to work independently. So that is something, it's if you can work on that particular aspect right from maybe towards the 3rd or 4th year, that will be great. Like, start doing your individual projects instead of working together as a group. It's good to work together as a group. You need to have that skill too, like team, like working as a team is also important, but research is a field where there are times where you're alone and you have to work by yourself. So it's important to learn how to work independently. And yeah, 2 more things would be, again, if you're interested in considering research as a career, develop a habit of reading and writing, both in terms of your coursework, and also just outside. You can read books or like articles or anything. So it's good to cultivate that habit, because it helps you build your vocabulary, and it kind of comes handy, because if you have to write long assignments every week and then present journals, make presentations and stuff. So the whole concept of reading for long hours, or like the habit of reading kind of it helps you when you're reading long papers. You don't get bored easily. And then definitely writing. So it's always good to develop a habit of reading and writing before. And the last point, I would say, this is something which is slightly underrated but very important, is to create that work study, or that work life or study life balance. It's very important. You need to have some kind of a hobby or a passion and on the side, so that you can get back to what you're doing. It's like there are times where you cannot, like I read a lot. I used to read a lot, but then in the last 2 years I almost gave up reading. But now I'm able to get back to it. So, but yeah, once in a while I used to pick up a book and read on a completely different on a completely different subject. So that kind of helps you think about other things. So I think these 4 things I would say are really important, and probably will better equip you as an international student.
Thank you, Sandhya. I'm pretty sure that is very useful to a lot of students out there. Now we have received quite a lot of questions from our participants via emails, as well as in the comment box of Zoom and YouTube. Thank you for your questions. But one, I won't be able to ask all of it here, but one generalization, if I may make, is about the scholarships that are available. This varies from university, from programs, I understand that. But on a broader scale, how easy or difficult is to get a scholarship through for your studies? Maybe Sandhya, if you could answer, because you've been there very recently.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it depends on the university that you apply to. I would say if you're applying, if you like I think in Australia and other countries, you can directly apply for a PhD. Although you will start with masters, but they'll take you to into a PhD directly. So if you're getting into a program which is like 4 years, I would definitely suggest taking it only if you get a scholarship, because it's going to be really difficult otherwise, like because if you're not financially stable, you will not be able to concentrate on what you're doing. So getting a scholarship, yes, is difficult. I know, like as a personal experience, yes, it is really difficult to get a full scholarship. Even the program that I applied here, I didn't get a full scholarship, but then I ended up getting all the grants. And like once I got into it, I got all the grants and I got all the scholarships that the university and the other funding agencies here were able to provide. So in terms of scholarship, that is where your GPA is really helpful. So it's just that, like Pawan rightly said, GPA doesn't define you. But when I have to trust somebody whom I don't know about, then your performances are the only thing that is available for me on paper. So I mean, if you have a decent GPA, but then you have a good work experience, that would definitely count. So I think it's a very one-on-one, and it's completely based on the university that you apply to or the professor that you talk to. If the professor is if you've already maintained a good rapport with your professor even before you applied, and if he or she is really interested in taking you, then I think they will try to come up with an opportunity in terms of scholarship. So they might also tell you that why don't you just come in, I will arrange for something or the other. So I know like friends of mine have also done that, where they've just paid the initial few the fees for the first few months, but then they ended up getting a good scholarship once they went there. But again, that totally depends on what kind of relation you have with your supervisor. In my case, because I got an opportunity in masters, so I just took it because I think I waited long. So, and I really liked the opportunity that I got. I was able to work with the professor that I wanted to work with, work on the research that I wanted to do. So I had to weigh my pros and cons, and I took this risk. So I didn't immediately get a grant or a scholarship, but I ended up paying. But then once I got in, I got some kind of a scholarship and stuff. So I think it's important to weigh your options, and there's no harm in asking your uh, supervisor about scholarships before you apply, because you can take a decision. You can accept or decline your admission based on scholarships. There's nothing wrong in it. I think it's a valid point to consider. But yeah, I think maybe Pawan or Shrikant or Uday can
I just
definitely.
want to add, Sanjay, you covered most of the points, but uh, apart from the CGPA, what matters most is the research experience.
Right.
Do you have any research publication in an international peer-reviewed journal? You may have international publication. Now, where do you stand? Are you a first author? Are you a second, third, fourth? Having a first author international publication will be beneficial apart from the CGPA. Let's say even if you do not have a good CGPA, a good research experience and a first author paper might give you a ticket. Next thing is, even if you don't have a publication, attending more of conferences, conference presentations, you have to make your CV strong, show that you're really interested in research. You have attended a lot of not just attending does not make any sense. You have to say that you have presented this work, this is your work, you are in writing stage or whatever. So I think making your CV strong makes a lot of sense apart from the CGPA. So CGPA, research experience, first author publication.
Right. Thanks, Pawan. That kind of answers Ms. Bidisha Bhattacharya's question as well. So you have to do that right away about publications and how it can help in getting you an admission. So my next question is, this is from Sunila Dambala. Considering the research experience we gain in India, what major challenges would students face when they join a higher degree research overseas? Pawan, will you be able to comment on that question?
I think I can add, but Shrikant may be a better person because I saw a few of them. I mean, I went directly with bachelors. I had a bit of struggle for a few months, but I coped up. But a lot of students who did got involved in research in India, and then after publishing a couple of papers, moved to Australia, moved to US. I think they're doing wonderful. You get a lot of confidence because you had a peer experience of analyzing the data, thought process, writing, etc. A few of, I think, Shrikant's students went there and then they're doing fantastic, phenomenally great.
Right. Shrikant, would you have any comments on that? Mano, can you help unmute Shrikant?
Right.
Yeah.
So, Jissa, can you just quickly repeat Sunila's question? Like,
so what she asks is, what major challenges would students face when they join a higher degree, a course for research, basically overseas, after gaining some research experience in India?
yeah, the question is, what is the sort of research experience they have gained in India? That's the fundamental point. Now, if they have been through a research laboratory that is publishing as well as any of the other foreign universities, and if they have been put through the same rigor of research elsewhere, then I think the transition would be more straightforward for them. And what I mean by that is, if the lab here in India where they are gaining the experience is making them critically think about a particular topic, making them contribute to the experimental design, to writing papers, and only then giving them authorships and things like that. Essentially, whatever standards is being followed in the West, if it's the same thing that's followed here, then it's only a question of getting used to a different research environment in the US or in abroad. Sorry,
Yeah.
but but that's not always the case in our environment. Unfortunately, people gain very different kinds of research experience here. It can be working as a technical assistant for data collection on projects, and getting an authorship in a paper. So if those things are, then the student goes with a significant amount of deficiency in terms of their independent thinking, in terms of their ability to communicate their ideas and stuff. So there is a disconnect that gets perceived between what is there in the CV versus what the student really comes with in terms of their expertise. That sort of is the starting of the trouble for both the student and for the advisor, because the advisor has also put in a lot of effort trying to recruit the student. And Sandhya alluded to the fact that some advisors go out of the way to try and recruit students, and they do so based on the CV of the student, based on what's written in there. But when the reality hits them, when that is very different, that's where the problem starts happening. Pawan was generous enough to say that many of my students are doing well abroad, but there have also been examples of guys who have not done well abroad because they have not been able to, what was there in their CV did not match their expertise. And I just wish that the advisors had asked me for actual feedback on what the student is. But so the point is, where the trouble starts happening is if the students, even though they claim to have had a research experience here, if that experience does not match what is needed for pursuing research abroad. So that's where the trouble starts happening.
So a lot of times the student projects or people in the lab think that if the data collection is complete, then the project is done and dusted. So I think we should come out of that. The projects, be it bachelor's or master's level project, or working as an employee, research is beyond data collection. Data collection is maybe 10% of the entire research.
Yeah, and also getting an authorship in a paper is not a joke. It's a very, very valuable thing to actually have. So when your CV contains, say, 20 papers or whatever in which you have been an author, then the people who are going to hire you will have certain expectations on how much you know in terms of the process of pursuing research. But when you actually land there and then you see that, well, all of this is not really commensurate with what you really know, the frustration factor sort of sets in. We have seen that ourselves in our labs. People with very, very heavily loaded CVs and stuff, they've really not developed that capability of independent thinking, and it becomes very hard to work with those individuals. So before you put a lot of stuff in your CV, make sure that you know those stuff.
Right. I think those are all very valuable points. It's about knowing what your strengths are and then trying to align with the area that we are trying to do further studies or research in. Makes sense.
Just if I can, sorry, just can I add one more thing? Because we are talking in terms of CVs and things like that. A common issue that I see, and Pawan and I discuss this quite often in our institute, is when a student sends a CV. Now, it's very, very easy to see that whether the CV has any merit or not. The common mistake that a student does when they send their CV is the CV is 10 pages long or 15 pages long. And what is there in that CV? Well, I played volleyball when I was in 4th year. I got a cup for swimming from one end of the pool to the other end of the pool. These don't make any damn sense. And the person looking at the CV is frustrated, saying, okay, tell me the actual content of the CV, and that turns out to be no more than half a page. And to be very honest with you, somebody who is just about finishing their undergraduate or who is finishing their masters, we also know how much they would have done. So when somebody is filling up their CV for 10 pages, that that just cannot be possible unless you are like a prodigy of sorts, which can exist, but in most cases it is not the case. So for all the students who are writing their CVs, be aware of this. Just the number of pages in the CV doesn't mean anything at all. The best CV that I have seen is just a single page document. That person has very clearly said, this is what I have done and this is what my strengths are. Easy to make that judgment. So all the crud in that CV, you can just remove it and make it as crisp as possible.
Right. Oh, that's a wonderful point out there. I'm sure all of you will take note of that. The next question, probably Shrikant and Uday and Pawan, you three might be the best to answer this. You mentioned, we kind of discussed on it earlier, on the students are not able to understand or grasp what is it that they are trying to do, or what are their core interest areas, even during the end of their bachelor's, let's say. So if that is the case, kind of takes time. I mean, some of them get to work and then understand, okay, this is my strength. So that time lapse is there. So when you are at that confusion point, is there something that can help to get to know ourselves better? Have you faced any situations like that? And if so, how have you come out of it, wherein you were not very sure about whether you are doing this right or wrong?
Maybe Uday can take it and then I can add my bit later on.
Uday, you're on mute.
And this question is from Vidya Sriram. Yeah, Uday, please go ahead.
Okay, so to Vidya, so I think this situation, like most of us will have to pass through this situation, and definitely I also personally had the same situation when I had to choose glaucoma as my specialization. But ultimately, I have to because of the situation, then lack of opportunities or lack of expertise, probably I had to do my own homework and then realize what is my strength, and then I have to train myself accordingly to get acclimatized to the situation, and then further groom myself towards that channel. But now, if you are in that kind of situation, then the best thing I would suggest is, first of all, to know yourself, what is your area of interest, and then you discuss with your immediate mentors or your if you are an undergraduate, definitely you will be doing a project with your supervisor or a mentor. So it would be ideal to discuss with your faculty or the mentor, and then obviously you need to decide whether you like whether you really wanted to go and pursue that line or no.
Thank you, Uday. Shrikant, would you like to add anything?
The Well, the way I went about doing that, again, bear in mind that this is long time ago. What I went about doing is doing a process of elimination. You had all these different options in front of you once you graduate. Now, what all are the ones I do not want to do? So for sure, I was clear that I didn't want to go into a corporate sector. I didn't imagine working in a retail sector. I wasn't too keen on doing full-time clinic. So that sort of removed 2, 3, very fundamental options out of the equation. The only thing that was left for me was education activities. So within that, it was a question of whether you wanted to pursue a research career or whether you wanted to pursue an academic teaching career. That was narrow enough for me to sort of go ahead and apply for graduate studies. So I completely understand and respect the fact that it's not easy to make decisions right at the level of an undergraduate completion. But at least if you are able to eliminate some obvious opportunities, that would help you narrow down the number of balls that is up in the air. The second thing also is make 5-year plans, and it doesn't mean that you cannot go back to an option because you have sort of left it away 5 years ago. I mean, hell, the country makes 5-year plans and then they make amendments to it. So if you, as an individual, you can certainly make 5-year plans and then come back and visit those options. So, what we see amongst our student pool is that thought process doesn't even exist, and that's the worrying part in all of this. And like Uday said, we are all there to actually sort of provide advice or suggestions and stuff. But I somehow feel that the extent to which we were proactive several years ago when opportunities did not exist, a certain sense of complacency has set into the students these days. That even though there is all these people who are available for providing you support, there is no takers for that support. So that's something that at an undergraduate level, students should probably introspect on it.
Just can I add?
Yes, Pawan, please.
I just want to add 2 points. I think the best person to talk to about your career options is yourself. Take a pen, paper, jot down all the various options that you have, be it elimination procedure or you want to choose the path you want to. Look at what are the positives, what are the negatives, how do you want to see yourself in 5 to 10 years time? Are you taking the right path? 5 years down the line, I want to be an independent researcher. There's no point for me to do clinics. There's no point for me to do MBA. So you know what you want to do. I think talking to yourself really helps. A lot of times students come to us saying that I don't know what to do. Please suggest something. It's very difficult unless you narrow down your, it's an ocean again. So narrow down to a couple of paths. Then they will be able to talk to you and then suggest something. You should talk to multiple people, talk to your seniors, talk to people outside, inside, within your campus, wherever, and then decide what you want to do. Just don't blindly follow one person. Talk to 5 people, hear to 5 people, then see what best suits you.
Thank you, Pawan. Thanks a lot. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So just a quick thing. As Sandhya had already raised this point that work experience, that also work experience, and when you have that 5-year plan, you can give that time commitment to each of the either a clinician or a research career or into the retailing or anything. You can give that time while working. So during that time, if at all you don't want to discuss with anyone, you want to take a call, Then you can take 1 year each, and then you get an experience simultaneously, and then you will be able to decide whether you wanted to take up a research career or an academic or into retailing.
Uday, we are finding it a little hard to, maybe I think there is some trouble with your audio. We'll just come back to you in a while.
Yeah, sure.
Um, uh, oh, it's much better now, actually. So if you could just
No,
summarize it in a minute.
yeah, I just reiterated the point that Sandhya had mentioned already, that work experience, because work experience helps you in understanding many things,
Right.
whether be it retailing or choosing the line, the scope which they wanted to further proceed in the career, or also in terms of their personal life.
Just I
Right.
would like to add one more point.
Yeah.
Again, not to sidetrack this, it's just that sometimes people, I think students also need to understand that sometimes things will not work out immediately. Like, because research is one field, there are a lot of applicants, there's a lot of competition. So even if you feel like you're good enough, sometimes it doesn't work out. So I think that's where, finding what you want to do, like work, having a work experience definitely helps. You're maybe like pick something that you're really passionate about, and don't lose hope when you don't get an admission, or don't get that opportunity that you want. Keep working on it. Like, I have friends who have tried, but they just gave up because it's tiring or it's demotivating. But I think if you're really passionate, that will keep you going. Meanwhile, don't leave your job, or don't that will definitely help you. You're going to learn a lot of skills on because of your job, or you're going to pick up a lot of skills eventually. Those skills are not going to go waste. It'll definitely help you in other things. So again, like, having a research career is not easy, and if you get it, you shouldn't take it for granted. So I thought I should add that point, because it's a personal experience. So I thought people should know that.
Thank you, Sandhya. I distinctly remember several of the conversations that you've had, during our work together about higher studies and your passion to do research. I recollect that now. Moving on, it's raining questions here, so it's a bit hard to wind up the session, on this note. So I will take two questions, which has more of a generic perspective, which can be answered and will benefit a lot of you out there. This question particularly interested me. It's from Jeevan Jha. Why students are expected or encouraged or simply told that if you go overseas to build their careers, it will be much better than to stay within the country and find a route to do excellence in their field. This was a factor that I and Shrikant discussed while we were brainstorming about this particular session. It's not that India do not have any options at the moment. It's about, I think, what do you want to gain experience in, and what kind of mentorship that you want, and what kind of exposure you would like to. That's my version of it. But I would like to ask Shrikant for his comments, as well as others on the road.
The question is, why is there a blanket statement that's made about
Exactly.
just go abroad? And yeah, I mean, the answer is, yeah, it's a wrong statement to make.
Right.
Maybe there was some credibility to that statement several years ago, but I don't think that statement holds true anymore. There is certainly value to going abroad and exploring opportunities. I think you asked us that question earlier, and I think all of us agreed that we have learned quite a bit, having gotten exposed to a different culture, different way of life and things like that. But to say that opportunities are not there in India and therefore go abroad is actually misleading the student. Well, I mean, in India is still developing as far as optometry is concerned, and you could, that there is this classic business school story about two people going to an African country selling shoes, and one guy coming back to the boss saying, "Boss, there is no opportunity. Nobody is wearing shoes." and the other guy coming back and saying the same thing, boss, nobody is wearing shoes, there is a fantastic opportunity. So it's a question of how you look at it. If you go abroad, it is a well-oiled machine for you, like I said, and there is things are already set as a path for you, and you go fit into that path, and then you do things. But if you are here, then you have an opportunity to really sort of contribute something novel, and the satisfaction levels, at least for me, has been quite high on that front. So I would disagree with that statement that there is no opportunity here and you should go back. You should go abroad.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question before we wind up the session. Sorry. Yeah. So this probably is better to be answered by Shrikant and Pawan again, I guess. What are the scope in translational research in India? And this question is from Bhuvaneshwari Ganeshan.
Pawan, you want to take it up?
Yeah. So the research in India, a lot of research laboratories concentrate on both basic and translational aspects. Without basic research, you will not reach to the translational level. So basic research is must. I think there is a lot of research laboratories that concentrate on basic research. Now, the funding agency, especially in Indian government, are concentrating on providing grants to those are of the translational ability, which means bed to bedside or from basic to translational. So any project that you take will have a basic component for sure. It might take a year, it might take 10 years to be translational, that sort of thing. So I think there is scope, there is huge scope. In fact, if you're doing translational, there is a high chance that you might get a secured position or a grant easily compared to that of a basic. But without basic, there is no translational for me.
Right. Thank you, Pawan. We are well over time, but that also shows, and the questions also shows the amount of interest and the curiosity that all the students out there have about this particular aspect of education. I'm sorry to say that I will have to cut short the session with this last question. It's already 1 o'clock, and we will definitely come up with another session wherein we could kind of point towards the questions that you have asked in this particular forum. Thank you so much, Shrikant. Thank you, Pawan. Thank you, Uday. Thank you, Sandhya. I really don't know how to express my gratitude, because I contacted you all in such a short notice, and you all came abroad on this idea and discussed the experiences that you have had. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, audience. Your questions made a lot of sense, and as IBI, we will definitely come up with another session that kind of answers all your questions again. Please do write to us. Please do connect with us at any point of time, and we'll be right there to help you out as much as we can. Thanks so much. You all have a great day, and a good night to Sandhya, and good night to Uday. And let's all go ahead. Stay safe, stay connected. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great day. Thank you, Jisa.
Bye.